Welcome to the Marketing Mentor Podcast with Ilise Benun, founder of marketing-mentor.com and author of 7 books, including The Creative Professional's Guide to Money. Since 2008, Ilise has been interviewing her clients and other successful professional creatives who are doing what it takes to stop the feast or famine syndrome, get better clients, and command the fees they deserve, and sharing the nuts and bolts of what they've learned so you can do it too. You can find more at marketing-mentor.com. And now, here's Ilise Benun.
I can preach all day long, and I do, about exactly which marketing strategies work, how to reach out to your ideal prospects, and what exactly to say. But sometimes the impact is so much stronger when a client follows the advice and then shares the story of what really happens when you do it. That's why I immediately wanted to do a podcast when I got a message from writer Lori Ferguson, with whom I had done a 2-hour consultation a year earlier. Her good news message was that she'd just won a $10,000 plus project from a prospect she had warm called, and then cultivated for over a year. In fact, the person who hired her isn't even the one she had been in touch with. It was his boss. That's the power of staying in touch with the ideal prospects you identify and pursue. I'm telling you, this warm email prospecting works if you work it. This is Ilise Benun from marketing-mentor.com. And in our conversation, Lori shares so much, including exactly how she stayed in touch and what she said from the first contact to the last, plus, more important, the mindset that is required if this technique is going to work. So listen, and then try it for yourself. Hello, Lori. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Ilise. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about how your business is going. First, if you would, introduce yourself.
Alrighty. My name is Lori Ferguson. I'm a freelance writer based in southern New Hampshire, and I have the really cool job of providing alumni and consumer pubs with all sorts of compelling content that informs and motivates their readers.
Beautiful. And so that's your positioning, that's your niche, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And we're talking today because you sent me a message a week or so ago about some good news. So start with that. Tell us the good news.
Well, the good news is I just landed a new client that I have been pursuing, reached out with a warm LOI about
Wait. LOI, most people won't know what that is.
Letter of introduction. Mm-hmm. That I had learned about from listening to podcasts by you and Ed Gandia. And I reached out with this letter of introduction literally in almost 2 full years ago, July of 2014, and established a relationship with the editor of the publication and just kept checking in with them periodically. And now, almost 2 years later, I landed a job.
And it's a big job too, right?
It is a big job. Yes, I'm doing a whole refresh of their website. They're doing a complete overhaul of their website. And actually, the person who hired me is not even the person I initially made contact with. She's someone elsewhere in the school. And when they started looking for a writer, the individual that I've been corresponding with for the past almost 2 years said, "Oh, you've got to talk to Lori. She'd be perfect for the job." So I was really thrilled, since I've never actually even done work for this fellow.
And so why do you think he knew you'd be perfect for the job?
Well, I think because we've established a rapport. He had some sense of my personality from speaking to me in emails and on the phone over the last 18 months or so. And he invited me when I first contacted him. He said he didn't have any work for me right away, but invited me to send articles periodically if I had something that I'd written that I was particularly excited about or proud of. Or I thought would be of interest to him or relevant to his audience, to send that along. So we've developed a rapport over the past 18 months, and I think he felt like he had a good sense of who I was and what type of writer I was, and what type of writing that I did, the approach that I took to my storytelling.
And, one of the questions I get from people who at first insist that warm email prospecting or any kind of outreach to strangers is just not going to work. They say it's just not going to work. And then they ask, once I've kind of worn them down a little bit about how it does work, then they say, well, what am I going to say? I don't know what to say. So in these 18 months, can you give a little example of how you've stayed in touch with this person and others, I assume, also?
Yes, I rotate through a lot of different people that I keep in touch with. But when I make my initial contact, I try to keep in the front of my mind that when I'm reaching out to somebody, I'm not reaching out for work. I'm reaching out to establish a relationship, because I always feel like you can't have too many friends. And once we establish a relationship, if work comes about as a result of that, then so much the better. But what I do with my warm letters of introduction is I take a moment to familiarize myself with the publication. I reach out, tell them just a little bit about what my background is. I start out by referencing something I've seen in one of their recent publications, and tell them why I think I might be a good fit for their institution, and then invite them to get in touch with me if they would like to speak further. And if they do that, which 9 times out of 10 they do, it usually isn't the first time I've reached out. It's usually on a follow-up that I will get a response, and I do get a pretty good response rate. I can't give you statistics, but it's pretty high. And then once you get talking, it really is just about a relationship. I check in and wish people a happy holiday, or say if I saw something in the news about their institution, I'll check in and say, congratulations on X accomplishment, or I wrote this article recently and I know we had spoken at one point about why, and so I thought this might be of interest to you, or this was something fun I did, or if it's just something goofy about the part of the country that they're located in, I may shoot them an email and say, saw this about Trenton, New Jersey, thought it was amusing and you might too. That's just having a relationship, really, just carrying on a conversation, even though I might not have met them face to face. I feel like I build a rapport with people over time. And I think it's easier to assign work to people, someone you feel like you know.
Right. And so in a way, one of the things you're saying also speaks to what I preach, which is to choose a particular market, because as you've chosen this alumni publication market, then you can keep track of what's happening in the market and make reference to it. As you said, if you see something about their publication, you can reference it. So if you would talk a little bit about that, because I know that's not the only market you're in, and what's the difference between how you follow up with people in that market and maybe how you follow up with people, kind of other random prospects?
Well, the alumni market, I feel pretty comfortable with, both because I spent a lot of time in school, and then my first job out of graduate school was with a university. And I've sort of circled in that realm for a long time. And so I feel like I know the concerns of the audience. I know the types of questions and issues that they're dealing with. I know the language. I'm not intimidated by speaking with professors or administrators. It's something I'm used to doing and very comfortable doing. So I think in that respect, it's made it easier for me to penetrate that market. In fact, this most recent job that I got, one of the things that they told me when they hired me was, number one, they liked my storytelling, and number two, they liked the fact that I was very conversant in the challenges that academic institutions face. So then my second niche is a big niche, is the arts. My degrees are in art history, and I really enjoy writing about art and artists. So I approach that more as this is what my academic background is in. I'm familiar with the vocabulary that's used by artists. I'm keeping track of what artists are doing in my area. I happen to see this artist creating this new work. So I try to play to my strengths, whether it's work experience or educational experience for my two main niches.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, when you came to me originally to do the 2-hour consultation that I offer, it was January 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of the things that you wanted to nail down in our consultation was to decide on your niche or try to focus your positioning. And I remember that you had, I think at the time, 18 clients already in the alumni market.
Mm-hmm.
But you weren't sure if you should pursue it. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, it does. I was concerned that maybe I was going to hit the wall as far as number of clients that I could find, alumni publications that I could find to write for. And one of the things that was very helpful, it was sort of a smack up against the head when I spoke to you was, yes, Lori, you have this academic niche, but there are different ways to go at it. And the alumni publications that you work with and for are but one aspect of the academic community and ways in which you might be serving them as far as providing writing assistance. So you convinced me that I was worried that my market was perhaps broad and shallow, and you convinced me that it was indeed or could be broad and deep.
And it is.
And it is.
And that's so interesting, too, because I do find people, as they dig into a market, see how deep it goes. Or sometimes they can't even see how deep it goes because it's so deep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a bit of a surprise to me and also, frankly, a bit of an embarrassment when we spoke about it initially that I didn't think of it myself. It was one of those can't see the forest for the trees,
yes.
Especially since I had started working in a development office right out of graduate school. And I hadn't even approached development people.
But that's the thing. You know, I feel like sometimes my job is to state the obvious because for some reason you're too close to it and you can't see it. And that's good.
I think it's just this most recent job that I got that was a cultivation period of almost 18 months made me realize that you can't, if you have a rapport with somebody, you shouldn't give up. You should keep going and stay top of mind. I'm convinced that's the biggest thing because they might not need you now, but if they remember you and they remember you favorably and had a good feeling when they did have exchanges with you, then you're going to be top of mind later.
And all that time and effort you invested would be wasted.
Yes.
And how much time do you spend on this cultivating of relationships and on your own marketing, would you say, maybe per week or per month?
Wow. I'd say I try to spend about an hour to an hour and a half per week. For example, on Friday, I finished writing a couple of pieces and it was still early-ish in the day. It was probably about 3:00 and my little brain was fried. I didn't feel like I could do anything more creative. And so I pulled out my spreadsheet and started doing my follow-ups for the week because that's something that I enjoy now and gives me an opportunity to touch base with people. And it's something that needs to be done. And it's something that doesn't take a lot of creative power on my part. So it's a win-win for me.
And you said, I enjoy now, which implies that you didn't enjoy it before?
Yeah, I used to be really nervous about it, to tell you the truth. I used to feel very anxious. I felt like I was imposing on people. I felt like I was bothering them. And so I was very reluctant to do it. And now I've learned that when I started focusing on the fact that I'm building relationships, not looking for work, at least not looking for work directly, it really changed the equation for me. And I have to be honest, if I look at the responses that I get from people, almost without exception, if I'm honest with myself, I can count on one hand, maybe a couple of fingers, the times anybody has ever said to me, you're bothering me, or please don't reach out to me again, or you're a pastor. And people just don't say that. Instead, they say, thanks so much for following up, or it's really good to hear from you, or I really appreciate you checking in. I don't have anything right now, but if you wouldn't mind checking in with me again in a few months. People are almost uniformly encouraging, and it's made me realize it's all about the way you approach the the proposition.
So it's the mindset that you approach
Yes.
it with. Interesting.
Yes.
And another question I get is, and I'm sure even though some people, it sounds like a lot of people are responding, but some probably are not, and you're getting silence. And I'm curious how you think about or respond to that silence. And a question I get all the time, which I really don't have a good answer for, is when do you know when it's time to stop?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's not something that I feel like I have a really good answer to yet. With my prospecting, if I'm reaching out to somebody new, I will reach out usually 3, maybe 4 times, and what I typically do is email, phone call, email. And if I haven't gotten any response after that series of actions, I usually take it as a sign that they're either so busy they can't be bothered or they're not interested, and I desist. If I had a client, potential client recently that I had reached out to, she wrote me back and said she was interested in working together and please get in touch. I got in touch a couple of times. She would respond erratically saying, oh, could we talk then? And I would follow up and then we couldn't talk. And I finally, with her, it was about literally 6 or 8 back and forth. And I finally sent her a note and said, look, for whatever reason, this doesn't seem to be working out. I don't want to be a pest. I feel like I've reached out to you a number of times now. I'm not going to reach out anymore. If you want to get in touch with me, you know where to find me, but I'm going to assume that you've moved on. But that's rare that I do that. I usually just let it die a natural death. So, and I'm not sure that's the right thing to do, but that's the way I've approached it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it has to be decided case by case. That's why I can't really answer the question generally. Each person, each prospect needs different behavior, and you just kind of feel it, and you have to make sure that the feeling you're feeling is not you're just wanting to stop in the first place. And that's tricky.
Right. Yeah, that's tricky.
All right, one last question for you, Lori, because in the questionnaire that you filled out when we first worked together, I asked what your vision for your business was, and one of the things you wrote, and I'll quote you, is, "We are toying with the idea of moving someplace warmer." You're in New Hampshire now. Yep. Maybe even a Caribbean island for 3 to 6 months of the year. I would like my business to be strong, well-established, and portable so that I can continue to work wherever I am and contribute in a meaningful way to our household budget. So we're about a year from when you wrote this. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing very well. My business is continuing to grow in a very healthy manner, which I'm most grateful for. And we're still kicking around the idea of moving to a Caribbean island for at least part of the year. So I'm delighted because I feel like I can work pretty much anywhere. All I need is a good internet connection and a computer, and I love that flexibility. And I also like the variety that it entails. I feel like if I move to a new location, I'm going to be encountering a whole host of new things that would spark my ideas and spark my creativity for writing.
And actually, one follow-up question to that then, because a lot of people do have this desire to make their business portable for all different reasons. And often when they come to me with that, it's because their current crop of clients are local, and that's not really going to work because the local clients need to or think they need to have you there. So how do you make that transition? I'm curious what your thought is on that. How do you make this transition to a new crop of clients that doesn't care where you are?
Well, for me, I don't feel like it would be a transition because virtually none of my clients now, I would say only half a dozen, if that, of my clients now are local. The lion's share of my clients are scattered all over the U.S., and I've never met most of them. Most of them a lot of them I've never even spoken to on the phone. We've only had internet correspondence, email correspondence. So I don't feel like for me moving to a different place would make a whole lot of difference. My clients don't seem to care where I am as long as I get the work done. But I think that might be different for somebody who was perhaps doing design work or web work, something like that, where they needed to make presentations to the clients and meet them face to face.
So I guess it's really just the technology and maybe a mindset that makes a business portable, plus, who you decide to reach out to, because as you're saying, you're reaching out to people who are not local. You're not meeting them at local networking events. You're having to put a lot more effort into it, which is what I think the email prospecting and phone takes.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. This has been great, Lori. I think people are going to learn a lot and the reason I wanted to do this with you is because I can preach all day long, but to hear someone say it who's actually doing it and it's working, it just makes a huge difference. So I'm grateful to you for sharing your experience. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for your encouragement. My counseling session with you back a year or so ago really gave me a lot of tools that I've used consistently. I refer to my notes that I took on those 2 phone calls on a regular basis, and also did the Command the Fees You Deserve course, which is really, really helpful. So I appreciate you for giving me the tools I need in my toolbox to make this happen.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And tell people where they can find you.
I can be found at writerloriferguson.com.
Excellent. And that's Lori, Lori.
Yes.
Thanks again, Lori, and we will be in touch.
All right. Thanks so much, Ilise.
Here's the other thing about this situation. When Lori and I did the 2-hour consultation a little over a year ago, her vision was to build a healthy and thriving writing business in a niche that reflected her interests, namely academia and the arts. Plus, she and her husband were, and still are, toying with the idea of spending 3 to 6 months a year on a Caribbean island. So she needs a business that is portable and strong. That is one of the things that determines which marketing tools and techniques to use. And for her, it's working. Now, I don't usually do blatant self-promotion on these podcasts. But if your vision is similar, I'd love to help you, as I've helped Lori and countless others. It is entirely possible, but you have to put in the effort. So if you haven't already, take advantage of the free session I offer. And even if you have, let's talk and see if we can't put our heads together to take your business to the next level. I'll be back in your ear again soon.
Thanks for listening. Now go try out what you've learned. If you like what you hear, you can go to marketing-mentor.com and sign up for Ilise's quick tips from Marketing Mentor and her free 30-minute mentoring session to get your burning questions answered. Check out what's on sale in the Marketing Mentor shop, like the Pick a Niche Kit, proposal bundles for designers and copywriters, and the 30 Minutes a Day marketing plan. Ilise is also the host of the How Design Live podcast, a programming partner for How Design Live, the largest design conference, and you can learn all about that at howdesignlive.com. Until next time.